God, my throat hurts so
Do
much.
an intro whenever you feel like you can recoup your...
Welcome back to Digi Bros. My throat really hurts like I've been singing for an hour or something.
Vader just gave a long, throaty rant about...
A long, saddening rant.
About Xenoblade Chronicles X, but we're not going to talk about that anymore. Today's episode, we're going to answer questions
Look at this
again.
beautiful sunset. We're playing Wind Waker now, a good game.
Yeah, this is a great game. Although we're at a very frustrating part of it.
Yes,
but
an endless part of it.
Roger Smith, although, you know, like, again, like, I don't hate this part of the game because this game is soothing. Like, you just
it's like the best part of the game if you're not
like
doing
paying
Digi
attention.
Bros.
Yeah. All right, Roger Smith wanted to know about, he said, you guys kind of started talking about, or you hinted at this before, but you didn't actually explain it. And you responded to this comment. He said, the town banding together when you guys were getting bullied.
Yeah, that one was pretty funny.
It's a misinterpretation of what happened. But what we were trying to say is there was a time once when we were kids. I want to say probably less than 10. I was less than 10.
I was probably 7 or 8, yeah.
Yeah, I was probably less than 10 years old. The house we lived in for the longest as kids was a cul-de-sac that we lived in for 4 years.
It was like Ed and
probably
Eddie.
heard us talk about when we talked about all our living situations. But you know, there was almost everyone in this cul-de-sac had kids, so it was like mostly like kids around our age or a little older, you know, living there. And we were kind of friends with a couple of the kids. I mean, we knew who they all were. Like, we all hung out outside. It was exactly like Ed and Eddie.
Yes.
And we were the Eds.
Yes, we were definitely the Eds.
And we had these, our friends Tommy and Corey, who didn't live in the cul-de-sac. They were, like, the next cul-de-sac over, which didn't have as many kids, but they hung out with us a lot. And, you know, people made fun of us for being weird. They made fun of Tommy for being gay, which he didn't admit to being at the time, but he was totally gay.
Spoiler alert, he turned out to be gay.
Spoiler alert, I never would have figured this out as a kid because I didn't understand what gay was, but as an adult looking back, I'm like, wow, I really didn't know what gay was if I couldn't figure out that Tommy, who spent the entire time I knew him learning how to do Britney Spears dances, was gay. Not to say that every dancer or Britney Spears fan is gay,
but he turned out to be gay.
But he was gay.
Yes.
Yeah, so he got made fun a lot of for that. I had long hair. Victor was just shy. And yeah, so we kind of got like picked on, but it was the kind of picked on like how Ed and Eddie do, where like they still hang out with everybody and know everybody.
Kids, you know, you just
right.
What are you gonna do?
But we were not the beloved members of the group, and there was a time once where like two of the like older kids who were in middle school,
Their names were Jerome
and Ryan.
Ryan, was it Ryan or Tyler?
Ryan.
I think it was Ryan, yeah.
I was friends with the Tyler at the time.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Ryan who was like 12 or 13 and Jerome who was like 13 or 14. They were the older kids, and they were like Ryan was like the skater kid, like the like just generic asshole skater scene kid before the scene was a thing, you know?
Yes.
And
90s asshole.
Yeah, 90s version of a scene kid. And then Jerome was just like a big black guy who was kind of a dick. And was Avion his brother or were they cousins?
Yeah.
I think they were
cousins, yeah.
And Avion was a friend of mine. He was like my age and he was cool. He was a hemophiliac, and it's very funny because he was a very scrawny kid with dreadlocks who was a hemophiliac, and which means his blood does not like restore platelets correctly or whatever, so he had to have like injections in every day and stuff. Grew up to be a giant gay bodybuilder. He like friended me on Facebook one day, and he's like fucking 6.5 feet tall, made of pure muscle, like a giant diesel motherfucker, you know, and I was just like, whoa, this is not what I expected at all. Once again, in retrospect, should have known he was gay. Just going by everything I knew about him at the time. But, very odd coincidence that both of my best friends in elementary school turned out to be gay later, and that I didn't. But, like, Avion was cool, but like those two older kids basically gathered together everyone in the cul-de-sac, and they had us all meet in one kid's garage. This dude Dewey, who was like the oldest, but I don't even think he was involved in this. He just had his garage open all the time, and they invited everyone invited us in. It was me, Victor, Tommy, and Corey, and they were all just standing in a line. And we
remember us
in.
being in the middle of the cul-de-sac.
No, it was in Dewey's garage.
Really?
And they had
I have a different memory of this.
They were all just. I mean, his garage was in the middle of the cul-de-sac. They were all like standing at the entrance of the garage, and then we walked. They were like
being like in the middle of the street.
It was like Avion or someone like came to get us and was like, "Come over here." Everyone had something to say.
That was the worst part, is that it was our friend.
Yeah, and then we all grouped up, and they all just stood there in a line, and they all said, "We hate you." At once.
It's just fuck,
and that
man.
was it. And then we just walked back to our house and went inside, and Victor just started bawling. And I was pissed. Like, I was sad, but I was pissed.
Yeah.
Victor was just sad. Victor was just bawling his eyes out, you know. Tommy and Corey were just kind of like, what the fuck? I think they hadn't caught up to us at the time. Like, they were still leaving the house and they hadn't quite caught up, so like we mostly caught the brunt of it. But and then like a bunch of them came over later to like apologize. Like, you know, they said, Jerome and Ryan
fucking
made
losers.
us do it.
If you're gonna fucking be a douchebag, own up to that shit, man. You either do or you don't. Don't be fucking peer pressured and then apologize. You fucking apologize.
Hey man, they're kids, and those kids were much bigger. I mean, I would do stuff Jerome told me to all the time because he was fucking huge and he could beat the shit out of you if you wanted to. You know,
I will always remember.
He was a big dude who watched wrestling and knew wrestling moves.
Do you remember the neighborhood fight? This is one of my most epic moments. This is.
Oh, did you fucking knock somebody out or something?
It was we had a, like, everyone in the neighborhood would fight sometimes in our yard. You know, like stupid kid play fighting.
Right.
But it ended up everyone was eliminated from the fighting except for me and this guy Jerome, who was, you know, the bigger enormous kid.
Yeah.
And then I was fighting him, and I did this thing where I started winding up my fist in a windmill. Like, winding up my fist and walking towards him, and then I punched him right in the balls. Just square in the balls, and he, like, ran home crying. And that was, like, the most triumphant moment for me as a kid, where it was like, that was the big bully, and I fucking nailed him in the balls, and he cried like a bitch. And it was, like, legendary.
I wish I had a story like that. Instead, I have a story
because I used to go around doing the wind-up all the time after that.
Instead, I had a story where I kicked a girl in the crotch.
You had the opposite
not
story.
realizing that it would hurt. It's like an older girl, and we were fighting in our garage, and then I totally like kicked her in the balls, thinking girls don't have balls, and like she went home crying as well.
Awesome.
And I don't think I ever spoke to her again.
You confronted
that's
her.
Okay. I did in fact confront her. Yeah.
Oh, God.
So that's what that story was. And the best part about that story is that kid Ryan lived right next door to us. And, you know, my dad found out about this immediately. And he was like, you know, I'll kill that kid if I see him again. And there was one time, like, Ryan started, like, walking over.
It was the same day.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
that he
it was
did
the same day.
Ryan was, like, walking towards our house or something. And my dad was working on the roof. And he straight up threw a hammer, like, in front of this kid and was like, don't ever fuck with my kids.
From the roof to the ground.
Roof, he threw a hammer as a warning of things to come. So, yeah. And I would tell, like, when I got bullied in middle school, I would tell kids that. I was always, like my word for bullies was, like, my dad'll kill you, you know, like, because he would have. My dad would have killed someone if they fucked with us too bad. Anyway, next question. Have you played any other nerdy board games, and do you want recommendations? Other than Dungeons & Dragons was the question. We used to play Arkham Horror for a little while when Tolentino was super into it, and he has like all the expansions. I don't like board games because they take too long.
I don't like waiting through other people's turn.
Yeah.
That's where I get real bored and I start to drift off.
Because it's not really fun to play with, like, too few people, but if you have too many, then it just goes forever. And
it takes an hour to get to your turn again, and you're like, oh, I'm out of this.
Complicated. Because, like, with Arkham Horror, it's not just that,
and
you
there's
each have to, like,
House
read...
on the... or Haunted Mansion game.
You have to, like, read all the cards, manage all your stats, remember what everything means, figure out, like, what's going on. It's just, like... it's kind of like the reason video games exist is because keeping track of this shit is a pain in the ass, you know? Like, the whole point of video games is to abstract all that and make it so I don't have to see the numbers, you know? And so when you have to see the numbers, it's just kind of like,
numbers!
I feel like, you know, a game like Arkham Horror, like, conceptually is so cool. And, I mean, it is a fun game to play with friends, but I feel like it would be more fun.
And you can't do it all the time. Like, we were doing it on
like a nightly basis.
Yeah, nightly, and it's just it's like a once a 6 months kind of deal, you know?
Yeah. And I've never seen another one that like appealed to me. Like I like Arkham Horror because I'm into Lovecraftian horror anyways. Like I love like Lovecraft style stories. So I've looked at other board games and always just kind of been disinterested, and they're expensive too. So
yeah.
It's not a cheap hobby. Although I guess they're not that badly expensive. At the time that we were into board games, I didn't have any money, so like I was probably much more averse to spending like $40.
If you're gonna play it for 700 hours, then it's worth it.
You never did answer your most embarrassing moment question. Oh, those last two questions came from. Or I already said Roger Smith, but that last one was from Woden9. Subspark Sparkle had asked about your most embarrassing moment. You could never come up with it, so I guess we could just let it go.
Yeah. Let it go.
Here's a funny question from Subsonic Sparkle, considering your previous rant. Does gaming suck now? 2015 was the year that your favorite game of all time came out. Bloodborne.
Yeah.
So
Bloodborne's good, so no. Gaming's great.
This 2015 was a better year for video games than it was for anything else. It had... Because... We had, you know, Bloodborne, which is a return.
Roy came to Smash Bros. 4.
A return to form for the Souls series with Bloodborne, and the DLC, which is even better. You've got Undertale, which is a huge, like, you know, not only a huge pop culture movement type thing, but a really good game that really deserves to be copied and inform the future of video games.
Yeah.
I really loved Axiom Verge, which was the best Super Metroid game since Super Metroid. You know, we had some big disappointments like Metal Gear Solid 5 and Xenoblade Chronicles X. But I think that, like...
What the fuck is this? If
you go watch Super Bunny Hop's channel... Because he reviews games, like, every week. And he had, like, a long period, like, towards the second half of the year where he was like, this year's great. Like, he played a bunch of games that were all interesting in a row. And was like, this is a cool year. I'm a big fan. A big part of why I follow, like, so many different review channels is that once I find someone who, like, has a perspective I find interesting, I really love getting a sense of what years are good through people, right? Like through scores or through what they say about things. So for instance, like last year, I believe it was last year, was like a great year for film. And I knew that because I follow YMS, and like he had reviewed so many great films that year. And this year was not bad either, but like last year was particularly great. And so it was like, man, 2014 was such a great year for film. And then like for me myself, I wanted to be that with anime, which is why I did my like top 20 anime of 2014 video series, because like 2014 was an amazing year for anime. Like it was pretty damn good. This year has not been great at all. It's been like okay for film and pretty mediocre in my opinion for music, you know, like Needle Drop, I'd say he pretty much gives the same number of 9s and 10s almost every year. So I don't think it was probably too different from 2014. But for me, it was like, man, 2014 beat the shit out of this year, like for anime and music. But for video games, it really seemed like last year sucked and this year was great. Yeah. So yeah,
really. Let's another thing that's disappointing about. I mean, it relates to Xenoblade, but Nintendo is all that's keeping me alive, and it's one of the few things that I really get excited about in life. And I still feel like that same excitement I felt when I was 14 and Smash Bros. Brawl was getting hyped. And it's like, I really rely on that to keep my hype for video games that's dying, you know?
Right.
It's Dark Souls and Nintendo are all I really care about anymore in terms of video games. And, like, the new Smash Bros. Shit was so fucking phenomenal. Got me so hyped, and I felt like I was on top of the fucking world.
Yeah, watching them announce Bayonetta.
Just for beta. Even though I won't even play it that much, but just getting that feeling is so good.
You do know that Cloud is out already. Like, you can play him right now, because Nate was playing him, and he was like, oh my god, it's as good as you hoped. Alright, I guess that answers that question well enough, yeah?
It really, watching the end of that, I was just like, man... Like, I almost felt sad that I wouldn't get to be hyped for more Smash Bros. Content, you know?
Right.
Like, just being part of it is really fun.
Yeah.
Having something to look forward to.
I think we're in a time now... I think when people get disappointed by games now, it's because... Here's a question I want to ask. All those great games that you remember from the 90s... Was there any hype for them before they came out? And if so, like, how much, right? Because there were games that were super hyped. Like, Mario 3 was extremely hyped before it came out, and it's still considered to be one of the best games of all time, right? And there are games that were like that, and there were games that were hyped and failed, like Daikatana, where they tried to hype it up for years, and it was, like, the worst game ever, right? But, like, I feel like these days... Everything is super hyped because everything is standing on the back of giants. Everything is always huge. And, like, it's weird to me. Like, for me, it's really surreal that, like, I go on Twitter and every day someone's disappointed about something different in games. Every day someone's mad about Konami. Someone's mad about fucking Kojima. Someone's mad about Nintendo. Someone's mad about this and that and that. And I'm like, why are you letting yourself get so hype that you would be disappointed all the time?
Yeah.
You know? Because all you have to do to not be disappointed is not get hype.
Yes.
Because when you're, as Yahtzee is always saying, and I'm always saying, when you go into something with high expectations, then two possibilities can happen. Either it meets your expectations and it's great, or it doesn't meet your expectations and you feel like shit. Yes. If you go into something with low expectations, then either it doesn't, it sucks and you go, oh, well, I didn't expect much, or it's amazing and you're like, wow, I totally didn't see that coming.
Yes.
You know, like, there's no, like, negative thing to happen if you're not hyped. And, like, when you live in a world where things come out and are disappointing all the time,
yes,
why wouldn't you build up a layer of cynicism and think, I shouldn't get excited because what if it sucks?
Yes.
Because especially when it comes to something like video games where the production cycles are so long, the situation is completely different every time.
Yes.
There's gotta be different people working on it. There's gotta be different amounts of money, different... The climate of the gaming culture has changed, you know? Maybe when they made the first game, it didn't make all that much money and now they have to change it. You know, maybe the writing staff's different. You know, you go between 3 Mass Effect games and by the third ones, everyone's super disappointed because the first 2 were so good, but like when you read the writing on the wall and know why it happened, it's like, okay, well, if we hadn't gone in with those expectations, we could have probably seen this coming. We could have known that the same people didn't write it and that there were all these production issues, you know. I don't think gaming sucks. I think gaming hype culture sucks.
Yeah.
I think people letting themselves drink the Kool-Aid and buy into the hype and talk about stuff so much before it comes out, you know, where, like, every game now is, like, 3 years of edging, and then when it comes out and it sucks, you don't get to come. You just get blue-balled, you know? Like, it's just... That's just what it looks like to me. And, like I was saying, like... I mean, not to accuse you, because Xenoblade Chronicles X did look awesome, but, like...
And I did set myself down when I first started playing it and be like, alright, don't be too disappointed, and that's why I didn't buy the special edition, because I was like, it might not be that great.
Right.
Which I was ready for that. I wasn't ready for it to offend me on, like, a basic level of, like, being basically comprehensive and having a full story, you know?
Right.
I didn't expect it to be Metal Gear Solid 5 and have an obvious half story that was probably rushed, because it seemed like they tried to put so much into the game that they couldn't focus on the story and it came off shallow and they only got to do half of what they wanted to do, which is the only logical reason for them to cut it in half, you know?
Right.
For them to say, oh, well, it's not done yet. Because you put so much shit in the game that you forgot what you were doing.
But Yahtzee has been saying this for years, and I'm gonna be saying the same thing.
That's got a triforce shard.
If you want gaming to be great, you can make it great. All you have to do is completely stop paying attention to the hype machine and just play good games.
Yes.
When a game comes out, don't fucking buy it. Wait for it to be reviewed. And by the way, don't go to Metacritic and look at the fucking critic score. Find a reviewer who you trust, whose opinions are similar to yours. There's literally hundreds of game reviewers out there.
Yes.
So find a game reviewer who speaks things that make sense to you. And when a video game comes out that you expect that person to like, or that you think would be in their realm of things they're interested in, wait for them to review it. And then if their review is, wow, this game fucking blows, don't buy it, then don't buy it. And instead, go find one of the games that they reviewed that they liked and play that game. Because there's tons of great indie games coming out all the time that no one's fucking playing. There's tons of great single A games, like these games that fly under the radar that no one fucking talks about, that you could be playing. And there's plenty of great shit, If you're really into narrative driven games, go play Until Dawn or some new fucking Telltale game or whatever, or Life is Strange. If you're into fucking what the fuck is that other game that's if you're into first person horror games, you got Soma came out this year. They got great reviews. You've got what's an action game that was really well reviewed this year? If you like horror games,
there's nothing to fill what I didn't get out of Xenoblade, because it's really that no game has been that big, no JRPG could have that scope and that polish, and it's it should have been, it had the potential to be that perfect game, and it wasn't, and it's just that's what's sad about it, and that it's how long we will never get a game of that scope again unless it's another Xenoblade game.
A JRPG
it'll never happen. Yeah, a game like that.
Because
at that level.
Because The Witcher 3 came out this year.
Yeah, but that's not the same genre of game as Xenoblade. I'm talking JRPGs with the battle systems and shit. I like the battle system. I want that game to be good. That game is what I wanted to play. I was excited about that style, and I enjoyed elements of it while I played it, but it's just, they fucking let it go, and it wasn't good enough, and it's just you almost had it. You could have had a perfect game. It's so sad. I don't know why Bloodborne is the only perfect game that exists.
Other than Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Well,
so
it'll all be good, because after Wind Waker, we're going to play Bloodborne on this show.
Yes.
Regardless of the fact that
liberated.
Grumps are currently doing the DLC, and it's great. And,
fuck the Grumps.
It'll probably take them 9 years if they actually do play through the whole thing. Which they're kind of implying that they might not do the whole thing because it's hard as fuck.
Yeah.
We're going to try to do everything.
Certainly. I will grind my fucking ass down to the wire if I have to.
Yeah.
Which might have to happen.
The way that Digibros is going, because there's a chance that we're approaching the last few months of Digibros because you're gonna move. Eventually.
Yeah, who knows?
Right.
I won't know if I even get into a grad school till March.
Right. Well, there's only it takes us about close to 2 months to beat a game typically on this show, and I think that the trajectory we're gonna go in is that it's gonna go Bloodborne and then Sword Art Online. And we might do, because there's actually the game we've been looking at getting is the Fairy Dance Art game, which is for PS4 and it's $60. But the PS4 also has a port of the I don't know if it's PSP or PS Vita game, Hollow Fragment. So, and that one's only $20. So we might do Hollow Fragment first and then do the other Sword Art Online game. So, so whether I mean, we don't know yet if Victor will for sure move, but like we kind of have the game set out that we're gonna be playing in the future.
Yeah.
Like we're definitely doing Bloodborne and we're definitely doing Sword Art Online. Digi and Pals is can be whatever. Doing Halo right now with Josh, so who knows?
In here.
Anyway, that's it for this episode of Digi Bros.
Yeah.
Tune in tomorrow for hopefully less complaining and being sad.
Bitching and moaning about Xenoblade.